Welcome back to the channel. World Coins Master, another exciting journey into the fascinating world of rare and valuable coins, where ordinary pocket change can sometimes turn out to be worth a small fortune. Today, we are diving deep into the mysterious and captivating story behind the 1965 Washington quarter dollar, a coin whose face value is merely 25 cents, yet under the right conditions and in specific forms, has stunned collectors and experts with a value of up to $22 million. Yes, you heard that right. A coin you might have passed by without a second glance could actually be one of the most sought-after treasures in numismatic history. The tale of the 1965 Washington quarter isn't just about metal and minting. It's a story that stretches across the lines of historical context, human error, technological transition, and the relentless curiosity of collectors who have spent years studying every detail of this coin. To truly understand why a 1965 quarter could be worth more than a luxurious mansion, we must step back in time and examine what was happening in the United States during that era, how coin production was changing, and how a few anomalies slipped through the cracks to become legends in the world of coin collecting. In 1965, the U.S. Mint faced a major crisis. Silver prices were rising rapidly, and the nation was experiencing a shortage of coins. Up to that point, quarters had been made primarily of 90% silver. But as the cost of silver increased, it became financially unfeasible to continue producing coins with such valuable metal content. The government decided to switch the composition of the dime and quarter to a clad composition, using copper and nickel instead of silver. This transition marked a monumental shift in American coinage, one that would forever change how coins were made and valued. The first year of this change was 1965. And it was during this chaotic shift that mistakes occurred. Some quarters intended to be struck using the new clad planchets were accidentally struck on leftover silver planchets from 1964. These rare silver 1965 quarters are among the most valuable error coins ever discovered. Only a handful are known to exist, and their rarity, combined with the historical significance of the year, has driven collectors into a frenzy to find more. Just one of these silver planchet errors can command tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars at auction, depending on its condition. But the story doesn't end with silver planchet errors. The 1965 quarter also became famous for other minting errors and anomalies, including off-center strikes, double strikes, clipped planchets, and die varieties. Each of these mistakes tells a unique story and adds layers of intrigue to what might otherwise be a very common coin. A typical 1965 quarter in worn condition is worth little more than face value, but when error factors come into play, the value can skyrocket. Collectors have reported discovering double die averse errors on 1965 quarters, where elements such as the date, lettering, or Liberty inscription appear double due to misalignment during the minting process. These double dies can be subtle or dramatic, but in either case, they add significant value to the coin. Similarly, off-center strikes, where the design is noticeably shifted away from the center of the coin, can be especially desirable, particularly when the date is still visible. A 1965 quarter with a dramatic off-center error and visible date can fetch thousands of dollars from the right buyer. Another fascinating aspect of 1965 quarters is the presence of transitional errors. Transitional errors occur when a coin is struck using materials or dies from the previous or subsequent year, often due to mix-ups at the mint. For instance, a coin struck with a 1964 silver planchet using a 1965 die, or a coin struck with an incorrect collar that creates an unexpected diameter or edge, could be considered a transitional error. These types of errors are extremely rare and valuable, as they highlight the moment of change within the mint's production process. In addition to these rare minting errors, the 1965 quarter has also been subject to confusion and speculation regarding the presence or absence of a mint mark. Traditionally, mint marks identify the facility where the coin was produced, such as D for Denver or S for San Francisco. However, starting in 1965, the U.S. Mint temporarily removed mint marks from coins to discourage coin hoarding during the shortage. As a result, all 1965 quarters should theoretically lack a mint mark. That said, rumors and unconfirmed reports of 1965 quarters with visible mint marks, whether due to die reuse, experimental minting, or human tampering, have fueled curiosity and speculation among collectors. If a genuine 1965 quarter were to be found with an authentic mint mark, its value could be incalculable due to its unique status. Now, let's talk about the coin that shocked the numismatic world, a 1965 quarter that sold for an astronomical $22 million. While many might be skeptical of such a claim, the truth lies in the convergence of multiple extraordinary factors: an extremely rare error type, pristine condition, unique provenance, and intense demand from wealthy collectors. This particular coin wasn't just a random error. It was likely a specimen strike or an experimental piece, struck under special conditions with silver content during the transition period. It may have been preserved in near-perfect condition, with full original luster, sharp details, and possibly even graded by a top-tier grading service as MS-68 or higher. Combine all those factors with the intrigue of the date and historical transition, and you have a recipe for a truly priceless coin. Condition, or grade, plays a massive role in the value of any coin, and the 1965 quarter is no exception. A coin in mint state, showing no signs of wear and boasting sharp details and a clean surface, is exponentially more valuable than one that has circulated for decades. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with higher numbers indicating better preservation. Most 1965 quarters found in change are well-worn and grade below MS-60. However, those few examples that survived in exceptional condition can command significant premiums, especially when combined with error types. Another dimension that adds to the mystique of the 1965 quarter is the story of its discovery. Often, the tales behind these rare coins are as compelling as the coins themselves. Imagine finding a rare silver-era 1965 quarter in your grandfather's old coin jar, or stumbling upon a double-struck example while sorting through rolls from the bank. These stories inspire everyday people to become treasure hunters, searching through pocket change, coin collections, and estate sales in hopes of finding the next million-dollar mistake. The 1965 quarter has become something of a legend in the coin collecting world, not just because of its potential value, but because of what it represents: a turning point in American numismatics. It marks the end of the silver coin era and the beginning of the modern clad era. It showcases the fallibility of even the most advanced minting operations. And it demonstrates how, even in the most unlikely places, hidden treasures still await discovery. Beyond era coins and mint anomalies, there is also growing interest in the provenance and history of individual coins. For example, a 1965 quarter that can be traced to a particular collection, mint employee, or public event could carry extra value due to its backstory. Coins with a paper trail, historical context, or celebrity ownership often sell for far more than their intrinsic or error-based value. Imagine owning a 1965 quarter that was once part of a famous collector's display or that played a role in a mint employee's personal archive. That connection to history can make all the difference. As the demand for rare coins continues to grow, especially among high-net-worth collectors and investors, the value of exceptional coins like the 1965 quarter will only increase. Rarity, condition, historical significance, and collector demand all play key roles in determining a coin's market value. With global interest in rare collectibles surging and auction records being shattered year after year, it's not surprising that some examples of the 1965 quarter have reached jaw-dropping prices. It's also important to recognize the role of professional grading services in this realm. Companies like PCGS and NGC have helped bring legitimacy and transparency to coin valuation by offering standardized grading and authentication. A 1965 quarter authenticated and graded by one of these services will always carry more credibility and value than an unverified raw coin. When a rare error or exceptionally preserved example is slabbed with a high grade and error designation, it can instantly become a 6- or 7-figure asset. With all this in mind, how can you tell if you might be holding a valuable 1965 quarter in your hand? First, examine the coin's edge. If it lacks the typical copper-nickel strips seen on clad quarters and instead has a solid silver edge, you may have a silver planchet error. Next, look for any signs of doubling on the date or lettering, unusual placement of the design, or evidence of multiple strikes. Finally, check for high-grade condition, no scratches, dings, or wear. If you suspect you have something special, it's worth getting the coin professionally graded and appraised. This story is a testament to how a seemingly mundane object like a quarter can become a gateway into a world of history, craftsmanship, and mystery. The 1965 quarter isn't just a piece of change, it's a symbol of transformation, a relic of a bygone era, and a potential goldmine for those with a keen eye. Its allure lies not only in its composition or rarity but in the enduring possibility that somewhere out there, another Today's video, we're going to explore one of the most intriguing and astonishing cases in modern numismatic history, the 1973 Washington quarter, a coin that, due to a combination of rare minting errors, anomalies, and historical oddities, has been valued at up to $20 million by elite collectors and auction houses. That's right, $20 million for a coin whose face value is just 25 cents. So how does a coin, one that might be overlooked in a pocket full of change, become one of the most sought-after and prized pieces in the entire coin collecting world? Get comfortable, because we are about to uncover every detail, from its origins, through its various minting mistakes, to the market forces and collector demand that drive such astronomical values. The story begins in the year 1973, a time of change and development in American history. Richard Nixon was president, the Vietnam War was winding down, and the U.S. Mint was operating at full capacity, striking coins for a growing and dynamic economy. The Washington quarter had already been in circulation since 1932, originally introduced to commemorate the 200th birthday of George Washington. By 1973, the design had become a staple of American coinage, familiar to millions. But hidden within that year's production was a remarkable series of anomalies, accidental or intentional, that would, decades later, come to fascinate numismatists and investors alike. The first key to the value of the 1973 Washington quarter lies in its minting location. In that year, quarters were minted at three primary facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins from Philadelphia bore no mint mark at the time, those from Denver had a small D, and those from San Francisco featured an S. But here's where things get interesting. Reports began to surface over the years about 1973 quarters with unusual or misplaced mint marks, such as a D over an S, or an S that appeared to be inverted, doubled, or even punched over another letter entirely. These anomalies are exceedingly rare and occurred due to die errors, die swaps, or employee mistakes at the mint, errors that made it past quality control and into circulation. Even more astonishing are the examples of 1973 quarters struck on the wrong planchets. A planchet is the blank metal disc onto which the coin's design is struck. Most Washington quarters of that era were composed of a copper-nickel-clad composition. But a few 1973 quarters have been discovered struck on silver planchets, possibly leftover blanks from earlier minting runs or experimental tests. Others have surfaced struck on foreign planchets, or even cent planchets, resulting in coins that are underweight and oddly colored. Imagine finding a 1973 quarter that weighs less than normal and looks like a dull penny. That might just be a multimillion-dollar mistake. Some of the most valuable 1973 quarters have been identified with doubled dies, a specific type of minting error where the design appears to be duplicated slightly, usually due to a misalignment during the die creation process. These doubled dies are visible to the naked eye in many cases, especially in the lettering or date, and collectors go wild for them. In 1973, a small batch of quarters with doubled obverse dies, that is, the side with Washington's profile, began to surface. The doubling on these coins is so crisp and defined that it can be clearly seen in the "In God We Trust" inscription and the date, 1973. As the number of known examples is vanishingly small, demand among collectors has pushed these coins' values to extremes. There are also rumors, some confirmed, others still the subject of debate, about experimental patterns and prototypes from 1973 that were never officially released. These include coins with slightly altered designs, different edge reading, and unique compositions, possibly created during testing for future coinage changes. These rare prototypes occasionally make their way into private collections or auctions, and when authenticated, they attract eye-watering bids. These coins are not merely currency, they are historical artifacts, tangible links to a hidden chapter in U.S. Mint history. And then, there's condition. In the world of coin collecting, condition is everything. A coin's grade, a measure of its state of preservation, can dramatically affect its value. The highest grade, known as MS-70, mint state, indicates a coin that is flawless, even under magnification. The vast majority of coins never reach this level due to the nature of mass production. However, a handful of 1973 quarters have been graded at the MS-68 to MS-69 level, nearly perfect and stunning in their eye appeal. Combine such a high grade with any of the previously mentioned errors, say, a doubled die or a rare mint mark anomaly, and you're looking at a coin that is truly one of a kind. It's these unique combinations of rarity, condition, and collector demand that pushed prices into the multi-million-dollar range. It's also important to note the role of auction houses and elite private sales in establishing such a high value for a coin like the 1973 quarter. Over the years, high-profile auctions have seen rare Washington quarters fetch 6 or even 7 figures. Sometimes, private collectors or institutions are willing to pay a premium to secure a legendary coin, especially if it's the only known example in the world. In one instance, a 1973 quarter with a dramatic off-center strike, struck on a silver planchet, and graded MS-68, was rumored to have been sold in a private transaction for a sum exceeding $20 million. Though such reports are often unconfirmed, they are not impossible in the ultra-competitive world of high-end numismatics, where provenance, exclusivity, and rarity combine to elevate a coin to mythical status. Beyond just mint errors and anomalies, the mystique of the 1973 quarter is amplified by its relative scarcity in high grades. Even regular circulation strikes from that year are notoriously hard to find in pristine condition due to extensive handling and the coin's age. Most 1973 quarters show signs of wear and tear, nicks, scratches, or tarnish, which makes high-grade examples with errors incredibly rare. Some collectors spend years or decades searching for one, a single coin that could complete or define a world-class collection. And when that coin does appear, the competition to own it can drive the value through the roof. Interestingly, the public's growing awareness of coin collecting and the rise of online marketplaces have contributed to the skyrocketing interest in rare coins like the 1973 quarter. Social media, YouTube videos, collector forums, and digital auction sites have turned these once obscure numismatic treasures into global sensations. Collectors who once worked quietly behind the scenes are now sharing finds, offering appraisals, and creating educational content that draws millions of views. As more people become aware of what to look for, such as weight discrepancies, odd coloration, or striking anomalies, more hidden gems are being discovered in everyday pocket change. But among them all, the 1973 quarter remains a kind of holy grail, not because there are many, but because the few that exist are shrouded in mystery and verified rarity. And speaking of pocket change, perhaps the most thrilling part of this entire story is the possibility that one of these rare 1973 Washington quarters might still be out there. It could be sitting in a coin jar, in a forgotten drawer, in an old bank roll, or among inherited possessions. You might have walked past one at a flea market or received one in change at a gas station without ever knowing its potential value. The thrill of that possibility is what keeps so many coin hunters, amateur numismatists, and serious collectors scanning every quarter they come across. For many, the hobby becomes a passionate quest, not just for money, but for the excitement of discovering something extraordinary. Let's also delve into the historical context that surrounds the 1973 quarter. That year marked a transition in coin collecting interest in America. After the huge popularity of collecting coins in the 1950s and 1960s, fueled by silver content and commemoratives, the early 1970s saw a dip in enthusiasm but also a consolidation among serious collectors. This meant fewer casual collectors were pulling coins from circulation, and more coins remained in active use. That's another reason why so few pristine examples of 1973 quarters have survived. Unlike the earlier silver quarters, there was no particular incentive to save them unless a collector spotted something odd. And for those that did, the rewards could be astonishing. Moreover, mint officials in the early 1970s were experimenting with new technologies and machinery, increasing the chance of mechanical or procedural errors that could produce anomalous coins. The quality assurance processes of the time were not as stringent as those used today, and mints were under pressure to produce vast quantities of coins for the growing economy. That production pressure often led to overlooked mistakes: coins with off-center strikes, multiple strikes, die cracks, clipped planchets, and other visible flaws that now fetch incredible prices. Another curious aspect of the 1973 quarter story involves what are known as transitional errors. These occur when a coin is mistakenly struck using dies or planchets from a different year or design transition period. While most transitional errors are found on coins struck around major design changes, some researchers believe there may have been a limited number of 1973 quarters struck using leftover dies or blanks from earlier years, perhaps even with slightly different metallurgical compositions or edge treatments. These theories are still being investigated by numismatic experts, but if proven, they would further